Now, we could spend easily 2 days just looking at the teaching methods that have come out really well from these trials. I'm going to show you some. This one's on page 11. The reason we're here today is to try and improve students' performance in our colleges. What I want to come out of this today is that you actually write down some notes today that suggest teaching methods to yourself that, that you've been impressed by or think you could use. I'm going to throw quite a few at you here today, both this morning and this afternoon. And I hope you'll choose the ones that seem most appropriate to your students and your subject and your style, and we'll experiment with them. Because you can't, unfortunately, improve teaching without changing it. Yeah? You've got to do something different. When you do something different, it's a bit scary. Don't worry. Just do it small, 5-minute exercise. Doesn't have to be a whole, you don't have to rewrite your schemes of work. All I'm asking for is little experiments, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, of trying new stuff. So I'm going to throw a lot of methods at you, and the question is, which ones would you like to use? Some methods I won't have time to look at, but they're in your pack. I'm not saying that those are less effective or less good. Many of them are more effective and better, but I haven't the time to spend to look at them. So don't ignore the ones that I'm not pointing to during the course of today. But here's one. I'm going to describe it to you, and I want you to tell your neighbor why it works so well. Okay? Work it out as a twosome or threesome as to why it works. This one's been trialed hundreds and hundreds of times. On average, it raises students' performance by about 2 grades at GCSE or 2 grades at A-level. Yeah? So if you do this well, it takes a year or 2 to get good at doing this, by the way, as a teacher, and the student probably as well. But once you've got it going, the experiments on average, and there's hundreds of trials, on average, these experiments have found that students' performance is improved by about 2 grades at GCSE or about 2 grades at A-level. And when people like Professor Dylan William go into schools and train teachers up in these methods, he finds they get about the same effect size, the same, huge improvement with real teachers in real classes when they're taught these methods. But it takes them a year or 2 to get there. You will not get it straight away because it's a skillful thing to do. Let's just look at the method. I want to know why it works. What the teacher does is they say at the beginning, I'm going to teach you about, let's say it's the role of the district nurse or something. And there are 2 objectives, 2 things I want you to really know. One is what a role is, but the other one is how it fits in with the roles of other health professionals. So that's my purpose for today. And the teacher warns the students right at the beginning of the lesson, you will peer explain this later. And they know what that means because they've done it before. Okay? So they know in advance of your lesson on the role of the district nurse that they will be expected to explain it themselves to a peer. The students are put into pairs, and each student is given their explaining task. This is after the lesson has been taught. You've maybe spent 30 minutes looking at the role of the district nurse, how it fits in with health professionals, DVDs have been watched, and so on. And then you say, okay, get into pairs, and you give them which of those 2 things that they were warned they were going to have to explain. You say who does what. What most teachers do is they say, in your pair, if you're nearest that wall, you'll take the role of the district nurse. If you're nearest that wall, you'll take how a role fits in with other health professionals. Then you're given 1 minute timed to write down the key points you're going to explain in a moment. So everybody now is quietly preparing to explain to their partner. Yeah? So individual prepare the key points. Next 3, you've all got this on page 11 in your pack. They then take turns explaining. So one person explains to the other the role of the district nurse, which they've just been taught. The other one explains back to the other one how her role fits in with other health professionals. Yeah? So far, we've sort of downloaded the construct in technical terms, the meaning that a student has made during that lesson. But it's wrong. It's inadequate. It's imperfect. It's incomplete. So we now say, I want you to look together in your pairs at the key points which you wrote early on, down here on under 2. Have a look at your key points. Could you improve your own? Could you improve your partner's? 1 minute. So the students look at their key points and they say, I think you forgot so-and-so. And the other one says, well, you forgot such and such. Oh, yeah, all right. So the key points are arranged, and improved. And then the teacher says, click, look at my key points. How many have you got? Now, the students might have got more key points than you've got on your screen, but you say to them, here are my 10 absolutely key issues here that I want you to take away from this lesson. How many of them have you got on your piece of paper? And the students look together and they self-assess and they say, oh, we haven't got that one. We haven't got number 7, but we've got the others. Yeah? So that's the end of that. Then class discussion. The teacher then says, okay, which one of my points didn't you get? Okay? And do you remember what we said about feedback? The feedback needs to be to the learner and the teacher. Professor John Hattie, probably the world's greatest expert on the factors that improve achievement, he says the most important aspect of that feedback is the feedback to the teacher. Because you need to fix it if they haven't got it. And you haven't got long. Yeah? So you discover, how many people you say, when you've done your peer explaining, how many of you, which are the ones you had trouble with? And how many have had trouble with number 7? Because you've looked over a few shoulders and you've seen absolute rubbish being written down on that one. A lot of hands go up. Oh, yeah, we didn't quite get that one. Yeah. So now you know, and you can say, let me go over that again. Yeah? You're improving their construct. You're improving their understanding by doing that. So there we go. That's peer explaining. Could be used in any context. Could be used in a practical context. I've just shown you how to use a lathe safely. Right? Half of you will explain X, half of you will explain Y. Prepare, off you go. Could be a practical, could be degree level, could be students with learning difficulties. I've just shown you how to choose which clothes go in a coloured wash. Yeah? And we've been astonished to discover that some of the things that go into a coloured wash might actually not be coloured, and some things that are coloured don't go in the coloured wash. So, I'm talking to the men in the environment here, it's a bit more complicated than it looks, and the students have to explain, how do we decide what goes in the coloured wash? Peer explain, off you go. So it could be PhD, could be learning difficulties, and interestingly, when we do the research, when people do research reviews, remember it's reviews, the most emphatic and useful information we get. When the research reviews come out, they find the effect size, the power of this method is about the same with postgraduates as it is with students with learning difficulties, as it is with primary school, as it is in English, as it is in maths, as it is in vocational. Peer explaining just seems to damn well work. Yeah? Why does it work? 1 minute, off you go, in pairs. We've got a roving microphone. Would anybody mind over here somewhere, perhaps somebody putting their hand up and telling us one thing that they think is good about this method and one reason why it works? There'll be a number of reasons. There's that lady there, thank you.
You actually draw in on people's experiences. Some people may have different experiences to others, so you learn from one another.
Right, absolutely. We're drawing on their experiences. So here, this construct here, do you remember it had to be built on what they already knew? Yeah? Well, some student perhaps who knows quite a bit about practice nurses, because mum is one, might say, well, it's just like a practice nurse, only, So they'll construct a slightly different meaning, perhaps, than somebody who's never heard of a district nurse at all. So, and some people have got prior experience of certain things, perhaps post-operative care or something, or know more about that. And I think this is particularly true in adult and post-19 education, where adults tend to come in with quite a big body of prior learning. And so this enables them to link the learning you're trying to give them with what they already know. And it's that link which makes meaning. Yeah? It's like the link in a dictionary between a new word and the old words that, that you're already familiar with. That link between the known and the unknown, that's meaning. That is meaning. And you're putting meaning in by getting them to express that in that way. Another reason why it works. We've got a lady here, if we can get... very good of you, Julie, here to run around, but yeah.
What we thought was it got the students to actively engage in listening, rather than just letting, a PowerPoint passively pass in front of their eyes.
Excellent.
They were having to focus and actively process the information to see whether it would address the task.
Absolutely. And remember, we gave them warning at the beginning. And these sorts of little tweaks are discovered from the experiments. You know, we find that a whole lot of experiments get an effect size of 0.6. You don't know what that means exactly. And you get 4 experiments, and the effect size twice as big. You think, whoa, what have they done? And what they did was they told the students in advance, you're going to explain this. And the students think, oh, damn, I'm going to have to listen. Yeah? Because they don't mind making a fool of themselves in assignments they hand into you. You're just a teacher. Yeah? You don't count. But if they have to turn to a peer and talk gobbledygook, and the peer says, that's not what she said, then they think, don't want to get caught out like that. You might need to, in fact, in some groups, you might worry about that degree of peer pressure. It might be something that you see as a positive disadvantage of this method, and you might want to address it, you know, change it, to adapt it so that people aren't too scared by it. But that's certainly a factor. Okay, it works. A lot of the reason is that we're forcing the student to form an understanding, we're forcing them to link it to what they already know, and then we're saying, you got that bit right, you got that bit wrong. Medal and mission. Didn't come from you, though. A lot of it would have come from the peer. A lot of it would come from the self-assessment process. Teacher says that, we ain't got it on our list. We didn't think of that one. Student changes brain and links that extra idea in, and they're getting a mission for how to improve their understanding, and you didn't even know they got it. You didn't have to go through your mouth at all. But you've arranged a structure for that methodology so that they learn in that way. Okay. It embeds formative assessment. Can you see what we're doing here? Is we're actually devising a method which gets students to do things, and as part of our methodology, we're finding faults and fixing. Yeah, that's what you liked about Bill, which I wrote, one of the things I wrote up about that you liked about Bill. We're finding faults and fixing. That door doesn't close properly. Go and fix it. Yeah? So it's a Bill approach. Sid would just say, you know, wouldn't bother with a lot of the feedback aspects of things, and would just say, not bad, 6 out of 10. And the students would wonder where they lost the 4 marks for a moment, possibly, and then we'd move on to the next topic. Yeah? But this is fixing it while we're learning. Yeah? Okay, so it's embedded. And there it's embedded by 4 and 5 and 6. At the end, the pairs are improving their key points. You forgot so-and-so. Yeah? You should have had that on your key points. Or I forgot so-and-so. I should have had so-and-so on that. Yeah? Self-assessment, class discussion, you know, all of that is fixing errors and omissions in the students' learning. We can peer explain all sorts of things, yeah? Yes, it's more, yes, the point there was the point there was that the speed of feedback was so quick that you're fixing errors and omissions straight away. Don't let the students walk out with a misconception if you can fix it in the class the moment they're being taught it. Discover it and fix it straight away.